G'day Ferg, how you going?
Good, Frank. How are you?
Good. We're going to do a live video about tasting our Pinot Gris.
Why not? That sounds like a great idea. It's after 5 o'clock. Everyone wants to have a sip of something, so thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yeah.
So this is a new release, Pinot Gris 2020 vintage, which some people who know what was going on in Canberra in the vintage of 2020 would be wondering how we made a 2020 wine. So we figured it needed some explaining. So Frank's going to give us a bit of a background on the wine and why we have a 2020 wine at all, and why it's an interesting wine and worth having a talk about.
I think an interesting thing to say first up is that we tend to make a lot of song and dance about a lot of our other wines, but Pinot Gris is actually our biggest selling product, so it's actually very important. I think of it as our bread and butter. It's a really important product in our portfolio. So as you said, 2020 we had bushfire smoke hanging around for a couple of months. We weren't able to make anything from our own vineyard, but we really needed Pinot Gris. We'd already sold out, and so it's pretty important to get a 2020 Pinot Gris. So turned to friends. I talked to a mate down in Victoria, Narelle King at Tar and Roses, makes a wonderful Pinot Grigio, and I thought maybe in that area they won't have too much trouble with smoke, and so she confirmed that that was the case, and put me onto a vineyard where we were able to source some fruit, which was very exciting because we've been looking at the possibility of not having a vintage at all. Yeah. So that's sort of where it came from.
People, Frank, have asked a bit about smoke taint and why can't you make a smoky wine?
Yeah.
What is behind it? Because we've been tasting some, and to be fair, we don't think you can.
Smoky sounds kind of good. Like I've got a smoker at home. I didn't use it at all this summer because we were so sick of the smell of smoke. But smoke taint in wine tends to have a really putrid, sort of unpleasant flavour. So it's really obvious when we were picking some red grapes, just doing little bucket ferments. Within about a day, they had a really unpleasant aroma. So it's not just smoky like bacon smells smoky. It's actually smoky in a really drained sort of way. So and you really don't want, especially our Pinot Gris. It's fresh, bright, really aromatic. Yeah. You want to have all that and enjoy it. So yeah, we just couldn't do it.
And for people at home, we really did take one for the team. We tried all of these smoky wines, and we had some very tough days trying them and trying to make decisions about what we're going to do. And as Frank said, the Pinot Gris is such an important wine for us, and it's such a popular wine, and it's Pinot Gris is a bit trendy, but we've made one for such a long time, and we needed to make one. So we broke with what our whole ethos is about being single vineyard producers, and set out on this process to make something from somewhere that's not home.
Yeah, so in fact 2020 would have been or is our 31st vintage, and we've never ever before bought fruit from anywhere else. So it's the first time we've ever taken fruit from any other vineyard, and hopefully it's the last time for it, because it's, like I said, it's not part of our ethos, but in order to have a product with some continuity, and obviously we wanted to be upfront about that it's not from Mount Majura Vineyard as it normally is, so we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute, won't we?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So yeah, finding the fruit was easy at first, but then in fact it is quite a complex thing to get fruit. I mean, we're spoiled. Usually the fruit comes a couple of 100 metres from the vineyard to the winery, and we use our own bins, and we don't need a truck driver, and the winemaker and the viticulturist can talk to each other because they're right next to each other, and when the fruit's arriving, or you go and check how they're going. So anyway, doing this by long distance was something that a lot of other winemakers do all the time, but something that we had to learn how to do. So there was a bit of kerfuffle involved in getting bins organised down in Victoria and so on. But one of the really good parts about it was actually making friends by long distance with Melanie Chester, who's the winemaker at Sutton Grange, which was around the corner from where the vineyard is, and Mel was fantastic. She just did everything that I needed, checked out the fruit for me, and made it really easy.
It's something nice about our whole industry, isn't it? I mean, people are very collaborative. We all love wine first and foremost, and then we're happy to help each other out where we can as well. So it was, we required some work, but we also had friends help us. So that's really lovely.
It's a really good feeling, and so we're very grateful for that, and meant that we had a product we could sell. Now, Usually, vintage is exciting because we get the fruit in and we do all the hard work of processing and so on. It takes up quite a lot of time and it's tiring, but it's exciting. And this time, especially with Pinot Gris, you know, it's got colour in the skins, and we want to have a wine that looks like this. So it couldn't spend any time on skins, so that's why we processed it close to the site. So the juice came here in a tanker. Again, something I've never actually done before, but a lot of other winemakers, it's a routine thing. But juice came here in a tanker, but fortunately it was in great shape, fermented really well, and we did rush. We did get this in the bottle much earlier than we normally do, so because we were keen to get it out there. But really pleased with how it looks actually.
And the 2019 is pretty well sold out, so there might be little bits floating about in some restaurants and a little bit in the wine trade, but certainly here at the cellar door, online and so on, we're into this 20 wine, so it's currently available. And yeah, we've sold out of the 19, so we really had to have it ready to go, didn't we?
Yep. Ferg, should we talk a little bit about the label? Because, like I said, it's not part of our normal Mount Majura vineyard thing because it's not from this vineyard. So, do you want to explain a little bit how we went about that?
Yeah, I think Frank and I are both very happy with how the labels turned out, and we had to sort of achieve exactly not having it look like a Mount Majura vineyard wine, but still recognisable in some way, and be as honest and upfront as possible with our customers about this not being from our vineyard. So for those of you who have one at home, I might just this is not in the script, but there we go. Have a look at it. How close is that?
Good.
Hopefully you can see it. So we've got no vineyard on the label anymore, so you know we like to call ourselves Mount Majura Vineyard. This wine has just got Mount Majura on it. It says Bendigo at the base, which is the source of the fruit, and we've taken away our normal capsule because that also has Mount Majura Vineyard on it. We've got this really flashy white one which looks really smart, and we've also, those of you who know our wines well, you know that there was an MM or Mountains or Mount Majura logo as well on the top of our capsules, and that's not there either, so it's just a plain top. The other really cool bit about this is Frank and I tossed around the idea of getting rid of the vineyard etching that's on either side of the normal logo, and we've swapped it for a symmetrical pattern, and this symmetrical pattern is pretty cool, and Frank saw it, he found it in Spain. So yeah, Frank, where did we get this one from? Because it really does, we were excited about it.
It's actually a long time ago, but I was on holidays and I was travelling through the south of Spain, and I went to the Alhambra in Granada. And the Alhambra is an amazing place. And I saw this pattern. There are lots of geometric designs all over the walls and amazing decoration everywhere. And I'm sure lots of people have been there and agree with me. It's just mind-blowing. And I saw this pattern, I thought it was kind of cool, and I actually sort of sketched it down in my little notebook that I was taking with me. And years later, I sort of remembered it and sat down and figured out the maths of how you actually make this pattern so that you can have just the repeating unit and then spread it across the whole screen. And so that was a little bit of fun, and so it was sort of something that I had in the background, and I thought, well, why don't we try that on the label? And we liked how it worked. And,
Frank put this all together in the office on his computer, and as somebody who sits in the office every day, I know how long it took to get all the vectors right and to make it happen. But yeah, so it's Frank's design, which is the same as the design in the Alhambra.
Yeah.
And that gate where it is, it's got a name.
Yeah, it's called the Puerto del Vino, so it's actually like there's a wine theme to where it came from as well. So it's all kind of makes a nice little circle.
So for us, it still has something personal, which is what we're all about as well. And I mean, we could well be talking to just a wall right now, or there could be people on the other side of this camera. But if there are, I'd love to know what people think. If you've got one of these at home, any comments? Because we really like it. We probably won't be able to find a use for it afterwards if we don't make a wine from somewhere else again. But it's turned out really well, and we have to thank our designer Sam for putting it together.
Yeah, Sam did a great job.
She did the proper work. So I reckon we can't sit here all night without.
No, well, there's a glass in front of me, and I'm feeling a bit parched. Actually.
Yeah, me too.
So
let's do it.
First thing, I guess, is the thing that I've always liked about our Pinot Gris Ferg is that it jumps out of the glass. It has that fresh character, and it was pretty clear to me right from the beginning that we wouldn't make a wine that was identical to our normal wine, but we wanted to have the same sort of style. So part of that was making sure we picked relatively early, so we'd get the fresh, lively characters. So it's actually much more of a Pinot Grigio style than a Pinot Gris. We want that vibrant character on the palate, and we want that fresh aroma. So what do you reckon?
We've achieved that, I think. It does have that nice, what I like in Pinot Gris is that sort of elements of musk and sort of flavours along the lines of almost quince, red apples, those sorts of things, sort of, I don't mean to say stone fruits, but those sort of like bright, crunchy fruit characteristics conjures up there. And yeah, initially on the nose, it does leap out of the glass.
Shall I admit something that I shouldn't admit?
Yes.
We wrote the back label text, I wrote the back label text before the wine was even fermented, so if the tasting note on the back label sounds wrong, I think it's actually not bad. It was a pretty good guess, but that's the logistics of winemaking sometimes.
It's turned out well. And I mean, at the end of the day, Pinot Gris is a pretty simple wine. It's not as exciting as great Chardonnay or white Burgundy in France could be. It's not maybe as fragrant and floral as things like top Riesling, which the district does so well. But what's lovely about it is it is clean and fresh and simple, and it's really, to use the trendy word, it's pretty smashable.
Yep. Now, there's a word that you tend to use for reds, and I'm thinking about it for this one. Do you get any of that marzipan character?
Yeah, kind of.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like a doughy sort of biscuity sort of thing going on.
It's almost maybe getting into a little bit of that sort of, maybe like smelling blanched almonds. Again, marzipan. It's that sort of thing. There's a bit of that in there, which probably we don't normally see in the fruit from this vineyard. No. I reckon.
And to be fair, if you can't taste some of those things, we might have just been making it all up. No, but we all have different senses of taste, and I don't always agree with everyone's tasting notes. But if you see some of those things, then you're probably enjoying the Gris the same way that we are, and enjoying the characteristics that we're looking for.
We'd love to hear what other people think about it. Got any comments out there? Anyone tasting along with us? That'd be really cool.
We specifically scheduled this for just prior to dinner so that Frank and I get out of cooking tonight, because we both cook at our houses most nights, I would say.
Pretty hungry by the time we get home.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take home takeaway. So that's the wine. Hopefully you've got it. If you haven't, and what we've been talking about sounds tempting, it is, as I said before, out there in the world, and available from the retailers that we look after, a lot of them in Canberra. Some of the chains as well will be starting to move into it, but if you want to be sure, of course, just jump online and grab some from the website. And for those of you who haven't done it before, it's an easy site, works really well, and we don't charge freight. We don't have a minimum order. You can just get one bottle and have a try. So that's something that's really makes it really accessible. We hope that's our goal. We want people drinking our wines.
I'm just going to interrupt for a second, Fergus. I've got a question here from Julia. She just wanted to
Hi, Julia.
remind you about the difference between the Gris versus Grigio again.
You.
Yeah, well, it's funny, we used to actually label so we've always labelled our Pinot Gris as Pinot Gris, and Pinot Gris would normally suggest the more rich style, that you pick the fruit a little bit riper, it's got that weight and texture in the mouth, maybe a little bit less floral, but more of those deep flavours. And we used to aim that way, and then 2011, remember, that was a dreadful vintage. It was cold, it was wet, kept on raining, and we were worried about the fruit getting rotten. So we actually picked earlier than we normally did, and we were really pleased with how the wine turned out in 2011. So it was a bit lighter on its feet, it was bright and fresh and lively. And since then, we've pretty much been making really a Grigio style, but we always called it Gris, so we've kept on calling it Gris. So I guess that's I hope that answers Julia's question. On the one hand, you've got Gris, rich, big, picked riper. Sometimes see some oak, that sort of thing. Yeah. On the other hand, Gris and Grigio, and I like to think, Grigio has more. In this wine, I really see a Grigio sort of a palate, because you've got that almost stony, minerally sort of a texture, and which is what I think makes it really appealing. Just sort of, helps wash down the food and makes you want to have that second glass. It's pretty attractive.
And it's only 12.5% roughly, so it's not exactly a heavy, rich wine in that sense either in terms of alcohol content. And yeah, Gris is, as Frank's saying, the rich style from traditionally Alsace in France. You think of eating sauerkraut and sausages and a grumpy Frenchman who's been invaded a million times. That's probably what Gris is all about. And Grigio to me is light, bright, happy Italian living, the great life.
Yeah.
And yeah, we hope Italians can be doing that again soon too, of course.
So in saying that, I did have Shannon ask a question as well. She said hasn't tried it yet, just jumped on, but what would you pair it with in saying that it's light, bright, crisp, fresh?
It's such a versatile wine, so often I think it's the glass of wine that you have before you even have dinner. So, it's a very easy wine to drink. And with food, it's great to have very specific food and wine matches, but this is one that's so versatile. So, I really actually like it with the sort of Asian things, even going into curries and things. But, today I was actually thinking there is a character in this wine. We were talking about that marzipan, maybe a bit of doughy character, and I was actually thinking about cheese souffle, which is not something I've made in probably 20 years, but I'd go with cheese
something
souffle
like that.
Yeah. If you want to get specific.
And it's a little bit of a richer dish, but this would have the acidity to cut through it, which you'd be looking for, and quite a savoury element in the cheese, and then the prettiness and the fruit to go with it. So I'd go with that. But it's certainly, I guess it's more or less, the lighter dishes, salads, seafood, those sorts of things. Lovely piece of white fish. You could probably hold roast chicken pretty well, although given we make Chardonnay as well,
I'd
probably go Chardonnay.
When I have a roast chook.
But at the end of the day, it is really versatile. It's in lots of restaurants, and the guys in the restaurants know what they like to pair it with, and it goes anything from Asian, Malaysian through to Italian. So there's lots of good options. I think the thing too is people should be having it play around. What do you think it goes with? And then if you find a great match, tell us, because we'll definitely give it a shot. We can guarantee that.
Good one, thanks Shannon.
Also, we just want to say thanks Adrian for the comment on the label. And also, we have a question from Monica Gray. So you can explain to Monica Gray's. And she said, what are the regional characteristics of Bendigo?
That's a tough one actually, because I haven't drunk a lot of wine from Bendigo. In fact, the first time I ever drank wine from Bendigo was from a winery called Pondalawi, who make a really good Tempranillo. It's pretty tough country down there, can be very dry. Otherwise, I'd say hop on Sutton Grange, somebody like that, and see what their wines are like. Certainly very good wines coming out of the region. It's cooler without being really cool climate. It's a sort of mild climate, I'd say, and certainly a very promising region, and probably a region that's flying a bit under the radar, I think, compared to what it deserves. But thanks Monica. Monica was our assistant winemaker up until this vintage, and now has a much bigger role at Tamerlane in Orange, and we miss you, Mon, but there wasn't actually that much work here to do this vintage, so it all worked out pretty well.
So we've got this other thing going on here too.
Should we reveal that? Yeah.
So
there is going to be another wine with a very similar label, but instead of saying Pinot Gris there, it will say Riesling, and it will, instead of saying Bendigo, it will say Tasmania. So we happen to have some out of the tank. Now this one's not bottled yet.
This is the joys of working in a winery. You can go and help yourself to the tank. So Riesling being the other, white sees no time in oak, so we will run out of it again, and we love making Riesling, and it seemed to make pretty good sense that if we were going to have a whole year without Riesling, we would want to make one and want to be able to share one with our customers and our friends and ourselves. So Tassie, who did you talk to down there? And
yeah, like I said, when you get stuck in a difficult vintage, talk to your friends. So Jeremy Deneen, a great guy down at Joseph Cromie in Tasmania. I asked him if he knew of any Riesling fruit down in Tassie, and he said it wasn't actually that hard to get. So we were very lucky, maybe with our timing as well. He had a couple of vineyards in the Tamar Valley that he was able to tap into, and we got ourselves 10 tonnes of Riesling that he processed to juice and sent up here. This time in big bags instead of in the tanker, and
these big bags are 1,000 litre bags. It's a goon bag, but for transporting. So, yeah, they still
Pallet
exist.
size.
Yeah, it's a pallet-sized goon bag.
Yeah.
But of course, it only had juice in it, so it was no good to anyone until we fixed it.
But it was very good for us because
Yeah.
we've suddenly had a big tank full of Riesling juice, and it's fermented. It's still a bit cloudy. It's been through most of its winemaking steps. Just needs a filtration and settle down a little bit, and it'll be bottled early July like we usually do for Riesling. So we're still on the 19 Riesling, but I reckon this is looking very promising. Again, probably a little bit different from ours.
Yeah, I was just going to say too that fruit that came all the way from Tasmania. I was here the day it arrived. It arrived here, and Frank and I were getting excited about it. It was 4 degrees, so it was really cool, beautifully kept. It was pristine when we got it, and like everything from Tasmania, it was pristine, and it was it's turning into exciting wine.
Yeah.
Sorry, cut you off. What
No, not at all.
What are you getting excited about?
It's sort of an interesting process because normally at vintage, you know how it is. I'm talking to Leo, we're wondering about the rain, you know, when can we get pickers? There's a lot of to and fro and it's all a bit stressful. And I felt like this year I outsourced the stress. Like I still had some stress about is the fruit going to be what I want and how's it going to arrive and so on, but it's all happening so far away that it was quite difficult. I couldn't go down and look at the vineyard myself. So anyway, I'm very fortunate that they were doing a good job, and they did advise me that down in Tassie there was rain on the way, and sure enough they did cop some rain, and so they picked this earlier than we had originally planned. So you can see that's where the delicacy comes from. There's lots of natural acid in this.
And that picking window, Frank, it can be a matter of like 4 or 5 days.
And you know, here we do have trouble that sometimes you want to pick on a certain day and we can't get the pickers when we want them. But they did manage to jump right on it, and we got the fruit off. I think it's very promising that it's a wine where we've had to. It's all about balance. This one. We're really always very careful with. We keep a bit of juice back when we're making the Riesling, and then we can blend that juice back in and get the residual sugar to be just where we want it. So it doesn't taste sweet food, but it's about there's a lot of acid there, so it's got to balance that. And
I think the last time we looked at this wine was a couple of weeks ago, looking at that sugar acid balance, and now that it's complete, it's very confident that it's in the right pocket.
Yep.
Absolutely. What the other thing about this wine, because we're talking about the acidity, which is probably, even though we get beautiful natural acidity from our site too, and we've never, as far as I know, added acid to Riesling in Canberra here. This wine has a real line of it. It's a significant difference in style, and it was picked much later than we would pick Riesling too, wasn't it?
Originally they were planning to pick at the end of April, but in fact it turned a little bit earlier. I think it got picked just before Easter.
And we would pick Riesling here when?
We would probably normally pick Riesling. It can be as early as the beginning of March, but it would typically be probably mid-March. But we're often sort of waiting, you know, trying to get a little bit more ripeness and keeping an eye on the weather. So it's not the first thing that comes off.
So sorry that you guys can't taste this, but you can later in the year when we release it. We're still selling through the 19 Riesling, which is also a gorgeous wine, and it is from our own vineyard, so we probably, you know, that's what we're all about. But yeah, this has been a pretty fun project, and this will be a very exciting one. Again, as Frank said, it'll be the same label, so it'll look like our wine's a bit on the shelves, but once you look at it, you'll realise there's something different going on there. And for everybody that's tuned in, you'll know exactly what that's all about now. Yeah.
Doug, do you want to? Yep.
I do have another question just back to the Pinot Gris. Julia asked, how did you select which vineyard to source the fruit from for the Pinot Gris, or the Riesling as well? You know, where did you get it from? How did you source it? How that came about?
Yeah, so I was conscious that a lot of people like us in New South Wales were all suffering from this problem of smoke taint. So, you know, not every region and not every vineyard in New South Wales has been hit, but it's been pretty widespread. So there are, of course, a lot of people that were probably looking for some extra fruit. So it was really about finding something that we could find, fruit that, you know, would be untainted and was available, really. But I think in both cases, it was really based on recommendation of friends. Narelle helped me find the Pinot Gris fruit from Bendigo because it's a vineyard that she normally buys fruit from, and she also found one or two others, but this one had the volume that we were after, and So it was, find something and then jump on it. It was really a bit of a leap of faith. So that's why I guess why we're so pleased how it's worked out.
Yeah, and were you talking to someone from Joseph Cromie or something?
Yeah, so Jeremy at Joseph Cromie got us the Riesling fruit, and then he also juiced it for us. So it's lovely when people can help you out.
And those Joseph Cromie wines, if you want to try other great Tassie wines, they are spectacular. Jeremy does a great job down there. Hi, Jeremy. We're really grateful to get hold of that fruit. So.
Yeah. They also make some really lovely Riesling, including an off-dry style, which is spectacular, and dessert Rieslings as well. Yeah.
And Pinot, which we can't make anymore. So
Pinot wasn't going to be so easy to find in Tassie if we wanted it, but that was okay. Yeah, good. Tell us a little bit about Cellar Door at the moment, Phil.
Yeah, so we are working, as everybody is, towards getting back to normal and doing all of the right things to make sure that everybody stays safe and stays well. So we are now allowed to have 10 people in our cellar door. We've spaced it out in a really strange way. It's not very romantic at the moment, but everybody can still come and enjoy our wine. So 10 people maximum at the time. Everybody will receive a cheese platter or one of our charcuterie plates, so you need to be eating while you have the wine. So that's probably a bonus anyway. The bookings are $10 to come and do that, and they're online, so it's a very simple thing to fit people in, and we look forward to it, becoming another easing of restrictions. But of course, we have to make sure that everybody's safe and well first, and we're doing what we can to do that. It's probably a broken record for everybody by now, but we're doing all of the sanitising and so on, and we're making sure that everything is as clean as possible, and we're having breaks between the seatings so that we can make sure everything's clean and ready to go for the next people. So we would love to see you out here if you're well and keen to try some wines, because we'll be here. And of course, if you're happy at home, which I think some people have been, then jump online. We have the Wine Club, which has some benefits as well for members, so you can get some regular deliveries and you can sit at home and just wait for it to turn up. And if you are getting out and about, don't forget that the local bottle shops, the independents as well as the chains are stocking our wines. Look after those guys too, and those restaurants that are doing it really tough. Heart goes out to those guys and all of the casuals and so on who haven't been able to work. And if there are restaurants near you that are doing takeaway, and they're all allowed to do takeaway bottles, or a lot of them are doing takeaway bottles too, get on board with those guys and keep them going, because we want a vibrant city and we want great restaurants.
Yeah. So that's probably about it from us, unless we get any other comments or questions in shortly. But
maybe if anyone has anything that they want us to do next time as well.
Yeah.
Let us know.
We'll be happy to sit back here again and reconvene and
hasn't been hard work, has it?
No, this is work. I've got a good job. That's a wrap, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for everybody and your support in this time. We're seeing lots of really good, lovely, generous people buying our wines online. So thank you for that, because it keeps us all going. Hope everyone stays safe and well and keeps enjoying wines, ours and everyone else's.
Good on you.